Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Today I was thinking we'd do something that we haven't done in a while, and that's a race recap. I've recapped a few of my other races, including the 2008 Olympic trials. I'll link that right here. And that's the race, that, of course, that made me an Olympian, the first Olympic team that I made. But I haven't done one in a while, and a lot of people have been asking for me to recap the 2012 season. The 2012 season, of course, arguably the greatest season that I ever had. And if you want to read about my training for that season, I actually kept my training log that year and made it publicly available. I'll link that in the description below. You can download my 2012 Olympic season training log absolutely free. But there's a lot of behind the scenes information and a lot of behind the scenes stories that training log didn't capture. And so this week and next week, I want to go ahead and do a race recap this week of the 2012 Olympic trials and next week of the 2012 Olympic Games when I ran my personal best in the 800 of 142.9. But without further ado, let's dig into the race that made me a two-time Olympian, and I've got it pulled up right here on my computer. Now, before I press play, I want to just point something out here. I was racing for Nike at the time, as is evident by the giant swoosh, and of course I was racing for Oregon Track Club, living and competing here in Eugene, Oregon. And you'll notice that I had tape on my left deltoid. I had actually auctioned that space off to an advertiser. The winning bidder was Hanson Dodge Creative, a creative agency out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they paid me $11,100 for that space. But of course I had to tape over it due to what I would consider bullshit regulations by USOC. And I fought that throughout my entire career, and I tried to give my sponsors, as much earned media as possible, whether it was through publicity stunts like auctioning my shoulder off or going on a date with Paris Hilton. I actually went on a date with Paris Hilton about a week before this race went down, but that is another story for another video. Right now, I want to talk about this race and how it unfolded. I'm going to listen along, and I'm going to tell you exactly what was going through my head. Apologies for the video quality. I searched high and low on the internet to find a better quality video. This is the best we got, but it looks like a recording of the TV screen of the actual NBC footage. So I'll press play right now. 8 individuals. The Olympic trials start out with 32 people, and over 3 rounds they select the top 8. Here's Charles Jock, who would ultimately go on to be one of my training partners. He was originally from Sudan, I believe it was, but really raised in America, and just a phenomenal talent. He is probably the prettiest runner in this race, and I don't mean that he's very good looking. I mean that he is so graceful. I would say he's 6'2" or 6'3", very light, and just moves effortlessly. Here's the top 8. Mark Wazorek was a training partner of mine. Tyler Mulder, probably my closest training partner. I'm in lane 3. Kadivas Robinson is the veteran in lane 5. He had made an Olympic team before. There he is, 2004 Olympian. 4th at the 2008 U.S. Olympic trials. You'll remember he and Christian Smith were the ones that dove at the finish line for 3rd place in one of the most epic finishes ever in an Olympic trials. Very memorable race. Now, this moment right before the gun goes off, this is the most nervous energy, just trying to keep calm. You see here I actually wave off the starter. There had been a lot of motion by people at the start line. That's okay to do. If you don't feel comfortable in the blocks, if you don't feel comfortable in the line, just wave, put your hand in the air and start over. But then we get back to the line and we go right after it. I actually got out pretty well in this race. I'm notorious as kind of a sit and kicker. I get out a little bit slower. But I see Tyler, who's my training partner, on my left shoulder here. And we work really well together, and I wanted to kind of key off him. I knew that he was going to be a little bit more aggressive in the first 200 than I was. But I still had to run my own race. And so you see me tucking in there second to last. I'm in 7th place after 200 meters, and it was a pretty quick 200 meters. You see it strung out there. I loved when someone was willing to take it out a little bit because it strung the race out. And as somebody that had to ultimately move from, last place to first place, I had to have that strung out so I didn't have to go all the way out to lane 3 to make moves. Here I'm already starting to move up a little bit on the inside. KD has gone out to the outside of lane 1. If I have the opportunity to move up on the inside, I will take it every single time if people give me that option. At the bell, here I am in 5th place. And now I'm kind of counting bodies as I come around this turn. I know that top 3 in this race will make the team. And I only have to pick off 2 people. And here on the backstretch is where I really like to make my move. The 3rd 200 is the 200 that makes or breaks an 800. and I've moved around into third place and now into second. I can see Dwayne Solomon. I know at this point with 150 meters to go that I am going to make this Olympic team, but I'm not content with just making the team. I want to win my second Olympic trials. So I sit on his shoulder. I could have passed him a little bit earlier, but it would have been wasted energy. So I wait to slingshot off that corner, and I go around Dwayne Solomon, and then once I have my eyes on that finish line, nothing else matters. I don't hear the crowd. I don't hear the competitors behind me. I'm laser focused on that finish line, and I throw out my arms for a big celebration. This was a big relief for me because I had really, I'll say it, I'd run my mouth going into this race. I'd said, I should win this race. I'm the class of the field. My training has been great. You know, I'm in 143 shape. I had been saying that I belong on that team. And so you can talk the talk, but you better make sure you can walk the walk and you can back those words up. Dwayne here actually makes his first Olympic team. He finishes third in this race. He really deserved it. He'd been working so hard, and it was awesome to give him a big hug. He and I had raced for years leading into this, through college and then, of course, as pros. There's his coach, Johnny Gray. If you don't know that name, get out the history book. He is the American record holder at 800 meters, and Dwayne and I both got close to his American record but weren't able to get it. As you can see, the look on Dwayne's face, making your first Olympic team, there's no better feeling. This is my squad. This is the LaPrey family and the Symmonds family, and first thing I usually tried to do after crossing the line, after congratulating my competitors, was go see my family. So here it is, the replay. This is about 200 meters to go when I work my way into the top three. Don't be content just because you're in the top three, just because, you know, in a final, you have to leave everything on the track, and that's my plan. You can see I'm patient here. I'm patient, waiting till that last 100 before I really flip the switch. But when I flip it, think about using the turbo in a video game. You drop that turbo. I'm trying to put so much distance on my competitors that it's demoralizing. Arrogantly in my 20s, I used to have this thought process in my head. I said, I want to embarrass them. I literally want to embarrass people with how much distance I put on them when I turn that turbo on. And of course, I arrogantly stick out my tongue too. Being a guy in your 20s and making an Olympic team is a very fun. It's a fun event. I mean, I freaking love the 8 and I love track and field, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating your hard work and making my second Olympic team here. I wouldn't say it's my favorite race. You know, my favorite race in my career is my 2008 Olympic team because there's no sweeter feeling than making that first Olympic team. I'll pause this. And my second favorite race, we're actually going to review next week. Second favorite race of my career would be the 2012 Olympic Games when I ran my personal best. Now, I'm really excited to dig into that. There are some really great stories kind of behind the scenes from what took me from this race, where I actually ran 143.9, ultimately to the 2012 Olympic Games, where I ran 142.9. Now, you'd think 143.9, making an Olympic team, that's the peak of a season. No, I was still on my way up. I was still just sharpening. And over the next 6 weeks, I continued to develop, I continued to sharpen so that I could ultimately run even faster at the 2012 Olympic Games. We will review that one next week. You're not going to want to miss it. Do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys. I hope you learned a little bit from this. Always another opportunity on the track. What a beautiful sport. I'll see you guys next week.